I think people overrate his boxing ability, in my opinion.
You think Tank's a better boxer? Forget.
Floyd Mayweather is not holding back when reacting to Tank's controversial draw against Lamont Roach Jr. He made it clear that Tank's performance was disappointing. But what stood out the most was his criticism of the way Davis handled himself in the ring. Floyd pointed out that Davis was using dirty tactics, something that many fans and analysts had noticed during the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good fight overall. Lamont, I always knew Lamont was, he wasn't coming to lay down. I've been knowing Lamont since we was kids, so we came up in amateurs together. So I knew Lamont was serious. He was coming in there to fight. But he did a lot better than.
According to Mayweather, there were several moments where Tank was deliberately using his shoulder to bump Roach in the face, but the referee either didn't see it or simply chose to ignore it. In his words, "I'm ashamed of them. Tank was playing dirty, bumping Roach with his shoulder. The ref didn't see it, or maybe he decided not to see it." This immediately sparked debates, because while Tank has always been known for his aggressive style, many believed he was getting frustrated against Roach and resorted to these tactics to gain an edge.
Through your mind when you heard the decision?
Nobody like a draw, from a guy that get knockouts and things like that, but it's cool. I feel like if we fight again, I could do more.
Mayweather didn't just stop at calling out Tank's roughhouse tactics. He also highlighted something even more alarming: the words that were exchanged inside the ring. According to Roach himself, Davis said, "They ain't going to give it to you," which according to Floyd was a major red flag to Mayweather. This was an admission that Tank himself felt like he was losing. He explained, "When a fighter is clearly losing and says something like that, something is up." This added more fuel to the fire as fans started questioning whether Davis truly deserved the draw or if the judges had protected him from an even bigger embarrassment.
Of his comments.
Boxing has become this thing where, you have to be undefeated for people to care about you, and that's all going to go. My son just went to that show this weekend. He said the live event was terrible. Disorganized.
You mean at Barclays?
Yeah, disorganized, and we're going to clean that up. We're going to make the live events great again too.
Mayweather also addressed a critical aspect of the fight that some people were trying to overlook: styles make fights. He acknowledged that Tank is an incredibly talented fighter, but insisted that Roach's style presented a real problem for him. Boxing is a game of styles. Tank can make it look easy against Garcia, but against Roach the style was just a challenge to him. Props to the kid. I hope they give him his deserved win. This was a strong statement coming from Mayweather because it suggested that he didn't believe Davis truly won the fight. He isn't outright saying the decision was corrupt, but he is making it clear that Roach had a case to win.
Lost that fight. I mean, the only reason they gave you the fight was because you would make more money as a champion, but there's no way it's a draw, and they didn't call it a knockdown. If they called a knockdown, you lost that unanimous.
Another major takeaway from Mayweather's reaction was his indirect criticism of Tank's corner. He didn't explicitly say that Davis was suffering due to the absence of Calvin Ford, but reading between the lines, it was clear that Floyd was hinting at the bigger issues surrounding Davis's team. What makes fighter is not just the skill, it's the team around it. It was a direct shot at the way Tank has been handling his career lately. Everyone knows that Davis recently parted ways with Leonard Ellerbe, and now for the first time he fought without Calvin Ford in his corner. Whether people want to admit it or not, those changes were clearly affecting him. The timing of all of this is what makes it even crazier. Just weeks before the fight, Tank was considered a worthy opponent for Shocker Stevenson. Now after this performance, fans are already questioning whether he stands a chance, and Mayweather's words didn't help Tank's case. When the biggest name in boxing history is openly saying that you struggled against a guy you were supposed to dominate, it changes the whole narrative. The fact that Floyd even went as far as saying Roach deserved the win means he truly saw something in that fight that made him question everything.
Never see that fight happening again. It just will not happen. Gervonta Tank Davis doesn't like hard fights. It's that simple. We've seen it over and over. He fought a Ryan Garcia drained. He fought a very inexperienced Rolly Romero. He will not fight Devin Haney. He will not fight Shakur. He will not fight Pitbull Cruz again. He will not fight Lamont Roach again. He will not fight
Floyd Mayweather has always been a businessman when it comes to boxing, so for him to not defend Davis and instead praise Roach is a big deal. This is the same Mayweather who once called Tank the future of boxing, but now it seems like he's looking at him differently. It almost felt like Mayweather was trying to say, "I told you." So he had always emphasized the importance of discipline, the right team, and preparation, and now Tank was facing the consequences of not listening.
In there, man. I thought I won. I thought I did enough to get the victory over a spectacular fighter. I told y'all from the beginning, man, that I got the skills to pay the. Yeah. I've been telling y'all that.
Some people believe that Mayweather is still holding a grudge against Davis for how their relationship fell apart. They think that Floyd sees moments like this as a way to remind the world that he was the one who built Tank's career, and that without his guidance things are starting to fall apart. Whether that's true or not, there's no denying that Floyd's comments carried a lot of weight. He wasn't just giving a casual reaction, he was making a statement. And the fact that he chose to highlight the things that went wrong for Tank rather than make excuses for him showed that he wasn't interested in protecting him anymore.
I'm not sure, bro. I'm definitely not sure, but hopefully we could get it before. Nah, it probably won't be this year.
But it seems like it's the whole Mayweather family criticizing Tank. Jeff Mayweather, uncle of Floyd Mayweather, and a seasoned boxing trainer, offered his perspective on the fight's outcome and the controversy surrounding it. Jeff Mayweather's insights align with Floyd's critiques, further emphasizing concerns about the fight's integrity and the officiating decisions. Jeff Mayweather addressed the moment in the 9th round when Davis unexpectedly took a knee after a jab from Roach. He asserted that according to boxing regulations, this action should have been ruled a knockdown in favor of Roach. In an interview, Jeff stated, "If we go by the rules of boxing, it was a knockdown. That's what they're doing, they're boxing. So yes, it's supposed to be counted as a knockdown." This perspective suggests that the round should have been scored 10-8 for Roach, which could have significantly impacted the fight's final decision.
About that, but if you take a knee in the fight and you touch down, whilst punches are being thrown, it has to be a knockdown. I've heard some people saying, "Oh, that he should be disqualified. He went back to the corner." I don't buy that, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that's a warning, but it's a bit of a bizarre situation for me. Like, there's a lot of people in boxing.
Expanding on the implications of this miss call, Jeff Mayweather highlighted that such officiating oversights could alter the trajectory of a out. He implied that the referee's failure to acknowledge the knockdown not only affected the scoring, but also potentially deprived Roach of a deserved victory. This idea echoes Floyd Mayweather's earlier remarks about the importance of fair play and the critical role referees play in ensuring unbiased outcomes. Jeff also touched upon the broader issue of officiating consistency in boxing. He expressed concern that subjective decisions by referees could lead to controversies that tarnish the sport's reputation. By not adhering strictly to Alish rules, officials risk undermining fighters' efforts and the sport's integrity. This viewpoint aligns with Floyd's criticism regarding the referee's oversight of Davis's alleged shoulder bumps during the fight. Tank Davis finds himself in a peculiar position. The controversial draw against Lamont Roach Jr. has left the boxing world divided. Some argue Roach was robbed, while others insist Davis simply underestimated him. But when it comes to a potential rematch, the consensus is that Davis should dominate the second time around, just like Floyd Mayweather did in his rematch with Jose Luis Castillo back in 2002. However, there's a big difference. Mayweather was still proving himself, while Davis is already a superstar that changes everything.
People want to discredit Tank. He's still a pound-for-pound fighter.
Yeah. What do you think about that fight that happened? You thought it was just an off night, or?
Everybody has an off night. Everybody has an off night. Shit, I had a off night with Cruz. Everyone has a off night. It's boxing.
You want to run that back?
For Mayweather, the Castillo rematch was about solidifying his place as an elite fighter. For Davis, a rematch with Roach isn't about proving anything. It's about clearing his name. The damage has already been done. The whispers of favoritism, the debates over whether Roach did enough to win, and the controversy over Davis taking a knee in the 9th round have all cast a shadow over his reputation. But will a rematch really erase those doubts, or will it just give Roach another opportunity to do what many believe he already did, expose Tank's weaknesses?
Decision, or I think the draw was meant to be. So I like the draw.
Do you like the draw? I think like the knee though. Was that a good call on the ref?
No, if you take a knee, man, if you take a knee in the 90s or in 2000, you're taking the point off. That's the bottom line. You're taking.
Davis does take the rematch, he'll be expected to win decisively. Anything less would be another hit to his legacy. But there's a catch. Rematches are dangerous. Just ask Anthony Joshua, who thought he'd easily dispatch Andy Ruiz Jr. the second time around, only to find himself struggling against a more prepared opponent. If Davis takes Roach lightly again, or if Roach fights with even more confidence, an upset isn't out of the question. Then there's the financial side of it. Unlike Floyd, who had everything to gain from a Costello rematch, Davis wouldn't be getting much in return. Roach isn't a household name, and the fight wouldn't be a massive pay-per-view attraction. The only real upside would be shutting down critics. But is that worth the risk? This is where Floyd Mayweather's past decisions provide an interesting comparison. Floyd was known for his business acumen. He never took a fight unless it made sense financially. Would he have given Costello a rematch if it didn't help his career? Probably not. Davis, who has often been compared to Mayweather, now faces a similar decision. If there's no major payday in it, why take the risk? If Davis decides against a rematch, the next logical step would be a super fight. And there's no bigger fight for him than Shocker Stevenson, a clash between an offensive powerhouse and one of the best defensive boxers in the game would generate massive buzz.
It is a majority draw.
There's a problem. Politics. Stevenson is now aligned with Eddie Hearn, and more importantly, Turki Al-Sheikh, the powerhouse behind boxing's biggest fights in Saudi Arabia. Davis has made it clear that he isn't eager to work with Alec. He's been vocal about fighters who are flocking to Saudi money, questioning whether they're in it for the love of the sport or just chasing checks. That stance has made negotiations nearly impossible. And with Stevenson firmly in Al-Sheikh's camp, this fight seems more unlikely than ever. The irony: if Davis wants the biggest fights, he may have no choice but to play ball with the Saudi billionaire. Alec is currently controlling the sport's biggest events. If Davis keeps refusing to work with him, he risks being left out of the biggest paydays. If Stevenson is off the table, who else is there? Teofimo Lopez Jr. He's currently tied up with a major Times Square fight card. He also has a complicated relationship with the boxing world, making fights difficult to negotiate. Vasyl Lomachenko, that would have been a blockbuster fight a few years ago, but Lomachenko is 37 and seriously considering retirement. Would he even be motivated to fight Davis at this stage in his career?
Reaction to Tank retiring.
He's retiring?
That's what he said.
Nah, he's not retiring. It's not a big fight to be made out there, and Tank knows that. I don't think he's gonna retire. With a lot of.
Keeson Davis, a solid fighter, but not a mainstream name. Hardcore fans might love the matchup, but it wouldn't generate the kind of hype that Tank is used to. Then there's WBC junior welterweight champion Alberto Pello. He recently won a world title, and Davis could go after him to grab another belt. But let's be honest, does anyone care about Tank fighting Pello? Probably not. This is the real issue Davis is facing if he doesn't take the Roach rematch. And if he refuses to work with Al-Sheikh, he's running out of high-profile opponents. Despite all this, Davis isn't in danger of becoming irrelevant. His name alone is enough to sell out arenas. The Capital One Arena had 19,250 fans in attendance for his fight against Roach. Even in a controversial fight, he remains a major attraction.
A knockdown. Look, I ain't the ref. I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he had to wipe sweat out his eye, he had to wipe sweat out his eye. But the rules do state, if you voluntarily take a knee, then that's an automatic 8 count. But it is what it is. I wasn't relying on that. I was relying on what I was doing in there.
Boxing fans are getting impatient. They want to see Davis and mega fights. If he keeps taking on lower-tier opponents, the excitement around his career could start to fade. That's why Floyd was always strategic with his matchups. He never let the fans get tired of his fights. Davis, however, seems to be stuck. The best fights are locked behind political barriers. And the most obvious fight, the Roach rematch, doesn't excite him. The reality is that Davis can still make millions fighting whoever he wants. But if he truly cares about his legacy, he'll need to make a move soon. Will he finally accept a fight under Walsh's terms and face Stevenson? Will he surprise everyone and take on Teofimo Lopez? Or will he settle for an easy title grab against Pello? The most interesting part of this entire situation isn't just what Davis will do, it's how the fans will react. If he avoids the toughest fights, will people start questioning whether he's really the best at 135 and 140? Or will his star power be enough to keep him on top regardless of who he fights? One thing is certain, Devon Davis is at a crossroads. He can either take the fights that will define his legacy or continue playing it safe. The choice is his. Ryan Garcia and Shocker Stevenson didn't waste any time reacting to Tank Davis's controversial draw against Lamont Roach. Both fighters had strong opinions, and their responses only added more fuel to the fire surrounding Davis's performance. Ryan, as expected, didn't hold back. He went straight to the biggest talking point, Tank taking a knee in the 9th round. According to him, that moment should have been ruled a knockdown. He pointed out that Roach landed a clean jab, and instead of fighting back, Davis took a knee and went to his corner. That, in Garcia's eyes, was all the proof needed that Roach should have won. It was a knockdown. Ryan posted, making sure the world knew he wasn't buying Tank's excuse about greed getting in his eye. It wasn't just Ryan either. Many in the boxing community, including Terrence Crawford, agreed that the moment should have been scored in Roach's favor.
Get caught while my eyes was burning. You can get knocked out like that, so I'd rather take the knee than, But I ain't really know that you can get disqualified for all that. Or when you start counting, I'm like, what the hell?
Garcia took it even further, questioning whether Tank was truly at his best, or if something was wrong behind the scenes. He brought up the fact that Calvin Ford wasn't in Tank's corner for the fight, a detail that had mostly gone unnoticed before. But after the disappointing result, people started to put the pieces together. Barry Hunter had stepped in as Tank's trainer, and suddenly his performance didn't look like what fans were used to seeing. Ryan believed this was no coincidence.
Feld and Glenn Feldman both scored the bout 114 to 114, even a draw. The decision is a majority draw.
What? Not.
I don't know. I think he's had much better performances. I don't know if it was personal problems. There are problems with a trainer, right? Something's going on. Then there was Shocker Stevenson. Unlike Ryan, who went straight for the controversy, Shocker took a more calculated approach. He didn't outright say that Roach was robbed, but he did point out that Roach had done better than expected. Shocker had predicted before the fight that Roach would go the distance, and he made sure to remind everyone that he was right. I told y'all Roach is better than people think, he said. Well, he didn't attack Tank as aggressively as Ryan did. His message was clear. Davis had been exposed.
See who it is. Hey, who is the dude? Who is the dude?
And that right there.
Floyd Mayweather himself weighed in, and his comments only made things worse for Tank. Floyd didn't just criticize Tank's performance, he even went as far as to say that Shocker Stevenson could beat him with ease. Floyd had spent years promoting Davis as the next big thing, and now he was openly doubting him. Some saw it as Floyd just being honest, while others believed he was trying to push a fight between Tank and Shocker. Either way, it was a huge statement coming from a man who knows boxing better than almost anyone.
Fight next.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the question right there. I want to unify at 135. Me and Shakur already talked to each other, and if he's available and we can line it.
With Floyd essentially co-signing Shocker's skills, the possibility of that fight happening just became even more interesting. Tank and Shocker have been circling each other for years. But nothing has ever materialized now, with Davis coming off a shaky performance and Shocker looking for a big-name opponent. The timing seems perfect. The only problem, Tank has made it clear that he doesn't want to deal with Turki Al-Sheikh, the Saudi boxing power player who now has ties to Shocker. This could make negotiations complicated, but at this point it's one of the biggest fights that could be made.